and yeah. This is the January recap and February introduction for the Monochromatic Year Project Pan book edition. This project was originally created by KaliFab, who I have linked down below, as well as anyone else who has joined this project in some form or another. So in the introduction, I said I wanted to aim to read 12 books in 12 months. And I am already 4 books in. 4. I've somehow got through 4 books. In saying that, I feel like I should mention that I do include audiobooks as part of this. If you didn't already know, I work in a library, so I plan to borrow a lot of my books for the year. Therefore, I won't always have the original thing on me. In saying that, I have taken pictures, so as I discuss the book, a picture will appear probably here, maybe here, somewhere on the screen. Let's discuss the 4 books I got through in January. The first book is Dot by Araminta Hall. I listened to this on audiobook, and as you can see, the cover is blue. This book was about a young girl, Dot, who has grown up not knowing her father. She lives with her mother and her grandmother, and the story deals with the relationships and developments of these women. I enjoyed this book and I wouldn't mind reading others by this author. So Dot is set in the UK, and it deals with a lot of those family mysteries and family secrets. So if you're into those type of books, I would definitely recommend this one. Moving on, I read Declutter, The Get Real Guide to Creating Calm from Chaos by Deborah Robinson. I found this book very easy to read, and it was well written. However, I did find some parts were quite repetitive or went on almost tangents that had nothing to do with what that segment / chapter was meant to be discussing. In saying that, as a semi-hoarder, the book was very well done because it dealt with clutter in a little bit of a different way than, say, Marie Kondo. It discussed it in a way that I felt was relatable for myself. However, if you are on the beginnings of a decluttering journey, because I would say that this book is more for someone who is getting started or is someone who has just had that realization that their house might look clean, but behind all the doors and cupboards and inside all the drawers, it's actually rather cluttered. Deborah refers to this as your house being like a person of skinny fat, where on the outside you look skinny and fit and healthy, but on the inside, yeah, not so much. As you can see, I've taken a page out of Kali's book, and though it's more of a teal blue, I did include this in it because it's still a form of blue. Also, if anyone has any decluttering style books that they found super helpful, I would love for you to recommend them down in the comments. So the next book was The Song of Us by J.D. Barrett. I listened to a J.D. Barrett story called The Upside of Over last year during my A to Z reading challenge, and I loved her as an author. So I decided to give another one of her stories a whirl. She is an Australian author, and this book is set in Australia, in Sydney to be exact, which I have the feeling that majority of her books are set in. I'm assuming she's a Sydney chick. This tale is about Zoe, who is in a relationship with an unavailable man and is a bedside musician in palliative care. The blurb of this story says, "Something's got to give." And that's essentially what this story is about. It's about an almost coming of age story for the 30-something and finding yourself and what makes you happy and what is going to bring you the best happiness in life. Especially because it touches on this when dealing with this idea of palliative care and the end of life, and realizing your regrets and the things you loved and the things that you would like to do again. The story has a character in it called Clara, who really brings forward that idea of living each moment and not having regrets, and that is a very powerful philosophy in this book. For February, I'm actually listening to another J.D. Barrett story, and I very much enjoy her as an author and would recommend her to anyone who enjoys this type of story. And as you can see, I picked this one because song is in blue. And finally, in January, I read Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crowley. This is a young adult novel, and it's about a young girl who has lost her brother and is dealing with that grief, as well as coming of age, love, all the lovely young adult scenarios. And it's a transformative book. It doesn't only deal with Rachel's changes, but also her best friend Henry's and his little sister. Most of the characters in this book are just finishing year 12, just turned 18. They're finished. Oh, it must be set in Australia because he's drinking. This book's set in Australia. Whoops. This book deals a lot with coming of age, and majority of these characters are 18. They're just taking that next step after finishing high school, where to go from there, life's changes, also that your needs are not always more important than others, and also standing up for what you want and what you believe in. The blurb says that this is a love story set in a secondhand bookstore called Howling Books, which I would agree with that. There is a love story in it, but I feel that the love story doesn't just relate to the two main characters, but also loving yourself and growing to love yourself and loving books and love in so many different aspects and ways and creations of it. Inside the bookstore, there is a shelf where people write in old books, as well as put love letters and things like that. And this also is a transformative book. I love the ending of it, and this idea of transfiguration or transformation, and I would recommend this. Personally, I'm a big fan of young adult novels, and this, as I feel that they deal with emotion on a different level than adult novels do, and they deal with some really dark topics in a very palatable way. So I would recommend this novel, and as you can see, 1, the cover is blue, and 2, this has got the word blue in the title. So moving on to February, and the colour is red. My aim is to finish 2 books this month, 1 audio book and 1 physical book, though I would very much like to finish 3 and maybe actually read that guide to YouTube. Just a thought. I'd love to hear what you've been reading, and if you have any recommendations for me, leave them down in the comments. I didn't realise I was been reading so many Australian books. I'm reading another Australian book for February. So on Verity, that was the first update for my Monochromatic Year Project Pan book edition, and now to the outro.